What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of SANDCAST. And guess what? You get another introduction. So in this episode with Madison Fitzpatrick, a former Florida State beach volleyball player, now a reporter contracted with, of many other places, ESPN. You might be familiar with her if you've watched the national championships before in Gulf Shores. She's done the sideline reporting there for the last 2 years. She also just did the NCAA indoor championships for ESPN. And we talk all about that, but we also talk about a very exciting development here at SANDCAST. So we are actually hiring Madison to cover NCAA beach volleyball for us. I think that that's been an area that has needed, it's just been missed, right? So similar to how I covered the road to Paris, covered the Olympics with the road to Paris, because I hadn't seen anyone do that before. And as someone who's a fan of beach volleyball, I wanted it covered. I haven't really seen anybody cover NCAA beach volleyball before, so that's what we're going to bring Madison on to do. The working name of the show is SANDCAST U with Madison Fitzpatrick. If you guys have any ideas, we're going to take your recommends. And so she's going to cover the NCAA like the road to Paris. It's not going to be a weekly thing. It'll be mostly after major events. So she's going to be previewing the season and working all the way up through the championships, which are now back to Gulf Shores. So I actually recorded this interview before, and that was when the NCAA championships were in Huntington. But it just got moved just a few days ago. We got word, and so this is the second time I'm recording this introduction. So some of the conversation's a little bit dated because we talk about how exciting it is that the championships are going to Huntington Beach. They are no longer doing that. It'll be in Gulf Shores. Madison will be providing 8 to 10 probably videos across the course of the season, including the NCAA championships. And one more quick note on this introduction is that, again, I used the same camera and mic setup that I did for our episode with Ian Kapp of Stevenson. And again, my phone ran out of storage, so it cuts off about an hour 3, hour 5 into it. You don't miss a whole heck of a lot of the discussion, but that's the last time that it's going to be happening moving forward because I got a brand new phone, and it's got 256 gigs worth of storage as opposed to the 64 that I did have. So that'll be the last time that we have that cutoff happen. Appreciate your patience as always, and enjoy this episode with Madison Fitzpatrick, and enjoy SANDCAST U for the upcoming NCAA beach volleyball season. Shoots. Yeah, Delaney, she has been cracking up because, like, as a player, I was competitive, but I was more like the type to try to be friends with everyone.
Yeah.
But now, as a coach, she's seen this totally new competitive side where I'm like, awesome. I don't like these people.
Yeah.
And she's like, finally. She's like, now I feel vindicated, because when Delaney was a coach, like she would be, and when she was playing, she didn't really care if people liked her or not. She was just her. And most people ended up really liking Delaney. But if someone didn't, she's like, I mean, sorry about it. Like, that's not my problem. And
I've always had respect for people like that.
And now I'm getting into that where I'm like, I don't like him.
Yeah.
It's like, this is it. Finally. Now we're talking.
Isn't that funny that your coaching, like, personality or persona is probably going to be different than your player one?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a lot different because now it's like, because the way I was as a player, it was never my number one thing. Like writing the podcast, commentating, like that was it. And playing was a supplement to that and just made me better at those things. But now coaching, we have the 23 women at Florida State, and we have Brooke and Nick, and we have Shannon, our trainer, and Jordan, the physical trainer, and everyone else. I'm like, that's my team. If you're not on it, you're not on it.
Yeah. It's like a family.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that way about my family.
Yeah.
And I did when I played here. It's like, it's one big family, and you have to protect your family. And if someone's against your family, you're like, okay, well, you're going down now.
Yeah.
I don't like you.
And now, if you're not on Florida State, like you're not on my team.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
So what were your years that you were here?
2017 to 2022, and I was one of the COVID years, so I got an extra year.
You had the COVID time warp.
Yeah, which was awesome because my last year was my best year, and I would have never had that opportunity. It's a silver lining to COVID, obviously.
Well, I feel like COVID was one of those things where, for some people, however you looked at it, if you looked at it like what an opportunity, it was a great opportunity. And if you looked at it like this is complete crap, the world's ending, then that's what you were going to get out of it kind of thing. And obviously there were special circumstances. But a lot of people look back on that. Like me and Dee got really into backpacking. We would just go to the mountains for like a week at a time. This was before Austin, so we would just go to Yosemite. and be there for a week.
Oh, Yosemite's gorgeous.
That's our favorite place in the world.
Yeah.
That's where we got engaged there. We've been back every year since we met in 2018.
Every year?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so we started this tradition kind of, we would take as many of our friends as we could every December, to the point where it got to like 20. And then we didn't go back this December because we were here in Tallahassee, but John Mesko and Evan Corey kept up the tradition.
That's so cool.
And they kept the group big enough where it actually spread to 2 houses. So they had to get 2 cabins, and they were sending us pictures. It's like, oh, this makes my heart so happy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that everyone's still getting the tradition.
That's a great thing to start doing during COVID. I started just drinking a lot. So that wasn't the best hobby to pick up, but yours was a lot healthier.
What's the closest like national park here? The Smokies? Are you an outdoorsy person?
I am a big outdoorsy person. I love to camp.
Okay.
My family grew up like camping. And I don't know the answer to that question, which is not good.
Where'd you go
the
camping?
Closest. We would go all over. St. George Island. You can like camp on the island. That's really fun. We go to Cape Sandblast. Usually go to like a beachy area. Or like Georgia's close to here.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like 2 hours to get to mountains.
Because Delaney just found this app where our goal is to get Austin and baby number 2, whenever he or she comes, 1,000 hours outside a year.
Oh, that's
awesome. Which is like 2.5-ish hours per day.
Okay.
But when you go camping, I mean, you can stockpile. You go camping for 3 days. It's 24 times 3. You can build up some hours.
Keeps track of that?
Yes, you have to like log it in, just be like, on January 22nd, we did 3 hours or whatever it may be. And it'll add it up for you. But that was... Because the original, our friends from church were like, yeah, we try to get to 400. I was like, yeah, but it seems pretty easy. It's like an hour a day. It's like bare minimum.
That's super
to
easy.
Me.
Yeah.
Especially for, like, if Austin comes out to a Florida State event, he's outside for like 4 or 5 hours. I'm like, all right, why don't we make it an actual goal to hit? The challenge level isn't really appropriate.
Yeah. How'd she find that app?
Just someone through church.
Cool.
Yeah, because they want to get their kids out for 400. And I was like, oh, that's cool that there's an actual movement, that there's an app to get kids outside.
That's important because everyone is so into video games these days, and kids they all have their iPads and they're playing Minecraft and all that stuff, and TikTok and everything. So that's really important. You're doing it the right way.
Are you on TikTok?
No. Sorry, I don't know why I said it like that.
No, I mean, I
try
respect
not
you for
to
it.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never downloaded it. I've sort of made a pact with myself that Instagram was the last social media I'd download.
Good for you. Do you feel like it could help you, like your career, if you downloaded it? Because I've been toying with that.
Man, we debate that all the time with the podcast, and try for like a year. It was like, we got to get a TikTok, And I was like, cool, do it. If you want to do it, take it away, but I don't want a part of it.
Good for you.
And I also wonder, because the metrics on TikTok are insane. Like videos, a pretty normal video, you get like 5 million views. But I don't know what you get out of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because you don't monetize it. And that's same with Instagram too. Because our videographer, have you met Frito?
Sounds familiar, but no, I don't think so.
You'd love him. But he was stoked because when we did the Beach Pro Tour Player Awards videos, our Instagram got like 1.5 million views in 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
Which for us is pretty big.
Yeah,
we have
that's
like
great.
9,000 followers on Instagram or something. And so Frito was stoked. And I was like, sweet. What do we get out of it? I don't know.
What does this mean now?
Yeah. So there's all these like vanity metrics kind of thing where it's just like, I got 25 million views and all this dopamine, but I don't know what you accomplished with it.
Yeah.
And so
dopamine, that's a really good point.
So I don't know what we would accomplish with TikTok. Like when people are recommending that for your career, how do they think it would help?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have yet to find something that, if it would help my career, I would do anything.
Yeah.
Not anything, but you know what I mean. I would get TikTok.
Right.
But you're right. There's been no actual answer for that.
Yeah.
And I don't like how much it consumes people.
Yeah. It's not for me.
No.
Yeah, I've just decided it's not for me.
Yeah.
But your career, you are entering, when we had our coffee chat, we kind of chatted about there is a low supply of talented people in volleyball media and a pretty high demand for it. And you're nailing it. You see the laws of supply and demand, and now we have a talented person in volleyball media who knows the game, knows the players, who gets it, and at 26 you're already doing the national championships. It's pretty awesome.
Dream come true.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. And volleyball, I grew up playing it. I love it with all my heart. I know exactly how it feels to play in the high stakes situations. And I knew that I wanted to get into broadcasting, so it was just the perfect natural progression for my career to go here and then maybe go to football, go to other sports.
Yeah.
But no, it's been an absolute blast, and it's been it's been kind of difficult to get to where I've been. Obviously, it's been a lot of hard work, but it's worth every single second.
Yeah.
Every hour put into anything that I do is worth it.
And I'm curious because Madison Binkley,
Yeah.
she wants to get into sports broadcasting, and she was actually asking, how do I get into it? And my path, I think, is so different. It's so unique because it was very untraditional. Like I kind of stumbled and bumbled my way into it because I grew up wanting to do print. And then we started the podcast and I kind of accidentally got into commentating. Well, what was your path? Like, did you always know you wanted to get into broadcasting?
Yeah, I would be like 3 years old. And you remember back in the day, like it would be like an old school video camera. My parents would have the old school video camera and I would just be like, behind me, you will see, blah, blah. And I'm trying to like narrate what's going on.
Yeah.
And whenever a storm would happen outside, I would want to go out and be the weather girl. So I've always been obsessed with public speaking, entertaining, engaging with people.
Yeah.
So I always knew I wanted to get into it. And right out of college, I applied for every single job you could ever imagine, like LinkedIn, all of those things. I was just on it constantly, applied for everything. Ended up getting a local news job that I was not prepared for in the least bit.
Arkansas?
Little Rock,
Okay.
Arkansas, weekend sports anchor. Craziest year of my life, and I had no training at all, but they really needed someone.
Right.
And honestly, I was like, I thought that it would be easy, but no, I had to learn a whole new different type of skill set: editing, producing, directing. I had to host my own like 30-minute talk show where I had to do everything in the studio, behind the scenes, all of it. So it was the most growth I've ever experienced in that first year. So what I've told Binkley is like, just apply for every single thing, and then don't be afraid to take a risk, even if it feels uncomfortable, because that's what it takes.
Yeah. I think that, I don't know how it was with you at Florida State, but at University of Maryland, we had journalism classes, but all they were go get reps.
Yeah,
And so it was just like whenever we were in a classroom setting, it was like, we're going to do a fake fire at a dorm. And then our teacher would say, here's what happened, and give you sort of the press release. Then he would role play the chief of fire, a witness, a student, and someone else. And then you had 15 minutes to write the story. If you spelled a name wrong, it was a 0. Fact error was a 0. And so you just got reps. And they never taught you anything.
Okay.
They just put you in these real scenarios, and you just had to do it. And then one class, a sports writing class, we met once a week. And the other 6 days of the week was you need to go find stuff to cover for newspapers.
This is cool.
And you need to get clips. And it was like, that's the only way to do it. And so I like that, like you going to Arkansas, like you didn't have any training, but you just, you got reps.
Yeah.
And I think in journalism, it's the only way to train is just to get live reps.
100%, because it's no, like the things that I learned in school, it was just broad communication classes, and it did not translate, whereas the reps really do. And the only way to get better is to do it live. And I had never held a camera before. I had to be an MMJ, so I was like the camera girl and then in front of the camera, and it was just, I failed constantly, and that's the only way to get better.
And it sucks that that's the way to get better, but man, it's the fastest way.
Yeah.
When did you start to get comfortable with just failing?
That is such a good question. I cried pretty much every day in Arkansas for like a month or two, and it was so uncomfortable. It was so painful. I was so embarrassed constantly. I remember running like from my computer in the newsroom to the where I would anchor and just crying because I was so ill prepared. We were coming on at 9 and my script wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I hadn't produced. I was just crying all the time. So I did not get comfortable probably until 4 or 5 months in.
Okay.
And then I just started to accept the fact that it's okay. And when I got in the mindset of this is why I'm here to fail, and it's not going to be a detriment to the rest of my career. This is just a part of the process.
Yeah.
Then I started to become comfortable with it. What about you? I like that question.
So it's interesting. I think once I understood that you actually enhance your credibility by acknowledging that you made a mistake.
That's a good point.
I think that helped a lot because, I mean, I used to be terrified of corrections. I don't know, like, if you've read real newspapers much, but so in old newspapers, you'd make a mistake and then they would have to run a correction the next day in print. And it would say, this is what this person wrote and this is the actual fix. And it was like a footnote. But in every job interview I had, they said, how many corrections have you had to run? And I would want to lie my way through it and be like, 0. Never been wrong. But then once I understood, I think it was when the Boston bombings happened, and CNN could not have done a worse job, where it was like, we got the guy, we don't have the guy, we got this guy,
Oh
we don't
my
have the
gosh,
guy.
yeah.
But they never acknowledged that they made a mistake. Whereas if they just said, hey, we messed this up, this is what actually happened, this is where we went wrong, we'll be better, I think their credibility would have been improved by it. But they never did that. And I was like, man, if they would have just said I messed up, it would have been way better.
Yeah.
So I think once I understood, if you acknowledge a mistake, it'll actually increase your credibility a little bit. And then, like, it's such a fast-paced environment where what you write on a Monday, by the time next Monday rolls around, no one's going to remember.
Exactly.
And so if you just say, hey, I messed this up, and maybe a couple people remember, but most people will be like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened.
Yes, and it's impossible to be perfect. And that's something that also helps, like acknowledging the fact that we're trying to perfect a job where you are never going to be perfect at. Like the national championships for indoor volleyball, I had like 2 or 3 hits where I was like, that was less than perfect. I mispronounced a word barely, or I said, I like paused weird. And afterwards I was down on myself, and my boyfriend was like, you're trying to perfect something that can never be perfected.
Yeah.
So just be yourself, everyone. And then they forget about it. Like what you hold on to so tightly, no one remembers.
They don't know.
No, they don't know.
Yeah.
We're our own worst critic all the time.
All the time, because we put ourselves under the microscope all the time. But most people, like watching a volleyball broadcast, be it beach volleyball, and if I say something dumb, they're watching 8 more hours.
Exactly.
They're not going to remember.
No.
A couple very enthusiastic fans might. But actually, I think watching Scott Van Pelt, who's kind of a hero of mine because he went to University of Maryland, and so he would come back and speak to our classes a lot. I was watching him host his own studio show for SportsCenter, and he messed up someone's name, and he just stopped and was like, man, words are hard. And he was like, it's
gosh,
this one. And I was
love
like,
that.
man, that's so endearing that you can just acknowledge it live on air, correct it, and move on. I was like, I love that about SVP.
Yeah, and people will like him more because he's real.
Exactly.
Yeah, and more relatable in that way.
Yeah, so I love that. So that's kind of the approach I've taken, is sort of breaking the fourth wall. Like when you mess up, you just pause and been like, that was actually incorrect.
Yeah.
Let me correct that real quick, and then we can all move on with our lives. And I think it kind of, if you can make fun of yourself, I think it's a very endearing quality and a necessary one in this industry. Because it's such a public line of work. Where, and with print it's kind of easy because they only see your polished draft, but commentating, sideline reporting, your first draft is what's out there.
Exactly. The red light comes on and it's like, all right, I've got 30 seconds. But that's why analyst is kind of almost a little bit more comfortable, because you have so much time to show who you are and to make an impact and all of that. But in a way it's a lot harder too, because more time to mess up. So, I mean, pros and cons, difficulties to both.
Yeah, always trade-offs.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you prefer? Is there, because you do sideline reporting, you're the lead sometimes, you're the color guy sometimes. What's your like dream route?
Dream route is sideline reporting for ESPN for multiple sports. I love football. I've always loved football. So I would love to be a sideline reporter for them. And then volleyball, of course, is my passion.
Yeah.
But I think a mix of analyst for volleyball and then sideline for other sports would be my ideal route, because I love storytelling of sideline. I love interviewing coaches. And then selfishly, I love being on camera, and sideline reporters are honestly on camera more.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that because it feels more high stakes because you can't look down at a notepad. But then analyst for volleyball is like second nature. We can do it in our sleep.
Right.
So it's fun and it's comfortable. And you get to talk a lot about the sport that you love and like fangirl over these awesome athletes for hours. So I think both would be my ideal.
How do you prepare for that high stakes environment?
Great question. I pray a lot.
Okay.
And then I over prepare. I am an absolute nut job. I could fill 24 hours easily with preparing and not eat, not sleep. Like I over prepare for everything. And right now, it's probably not good. I'm probably not using my time as wisely as I could, but I kind of memorize almost everything I need to know about all of the players, just so I can be ready on the fly. So over preparation.
Yeah, I think that's so key, because I read Jay Billis's book Toughness, I think, and he would say that I don't use 95% of what I prepared for. But you never know which 5% you're going to need. Sometimes it'll be this completely off-the-wall nugget that you didn't think you'd need to know. And it's like, oh, I actually know that. That's it. I'm
Exactly.
prepared for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes the stuff that you think you would need, you end up not needing. And I think it's hard. How do you decipher, like sometimes when I have a really cool thing, but it doesn't fit, I used to try to force it in there.
I do that
Like,
now.
Look at all these cool things I know, everyone.
Yes.
But now I think, because Hemingway, he would say, sometimes you have to kill your darlings.
Oh, that's
And
pretty. I like
as
that.
a writer, he's like, sometimes you have these great lines, but they just don't fit. And you got to take them out. Even no matter how much you love them, if they don't fit in the flow. And I've had to do that a little bit.
Man, I'm still in the where I'm just trying to force it every
Yeah.
time, and then afterwards I'm like, that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did it. But the good thing about Sideline is like I'll hit my producer in talk back, and I'll say like, I want to tell this story, I want to tell this story, because I'm trying to force it.
Right.
And he is kind of like the boss, and he knows if it doesn't fit.
Okay.
So that's kind of nice when he's like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But the analyst, yeah, you can just plug as much as you want.
Having a good relationship with the producer is key too.
100%.
Because if you guys jive pretty well, then and they tell you no, you're like, okay, I respect that decision. But if you don't jive well and they tell you no, you're like, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Exactly. I mean, it really does make or break it. We're all teammates on a broadcast,
Yeah.
and so just like sports, like it's so important to have chemistry with your teammates.
Yeah.
And I've really loved all of the producers I've worked for with
Yeah.
ESPN. They're obviously the cream of the crop, and I love them. Have you ever had a bad experience with a producer?
I've only ever had like one producer though. Name's Florin, this Romanian guy at VBTV. Love him.
Okay,
He's
awesome.
Just rocks Hawaiian shirts all day, couple unbuttoned, just total beach volleyball producer guy.
Yeah.
He's awesome. And we're wired pretty similar, because when we were this past fall at Volleyball TV, we were experimenting with all these different types of introductions and lead-ins to Elite 16 matches. So we'd go shoot stuff in the rafters in Hamburg,
Love
and
it.
then on the court, and then in Rio we were like doing it with our feet in the ocean, and then we were doing it from here. We did one peppering. He was like, if it sucks,
An
it
open
sucks.
peppering?
Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
yeah. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we were just experimenting. Like, he's just such a tinkerer.
Yes.
Like, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Oh, I love that. How was the peppering one?
It was fun.
Okay.
Because if you think about like something you can do kind of mindlessly, like I think some of the best like talks you can have are like when you're hiking or walking
Yeah.
or biking or whatever it may be, and peppering at this point is something you can do pretty mindlessly.
Yes.
And you have great conversations because your brain just kind of takes over. It goes on autopilot, so you're not thinking too much. It's fun.
Understood when people can't talk and pepper at the same time.
Yeah.
It's so easy and second nature
It's not
now.
that hard.
Come on.
The only
It's
tough
easy.
part was the audio would get a little bit funky.
Yeah.
Because if we had mics like these that you're putting on your shirt and then you're peppering like the audio, it got a little bit too loud. So we had to shelf that one,
Yeah. Okay,
which was
that makes sense.
unfortunate. Because I think, do you listen to Tim Ferriss?
No, but do I need to?
Because I listened to him a lot earlier, and then now he's like does a ton of podcasts on like psychedelics. And I'm like, I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But he did walk and talks for podcasts.
Cool.
And so he would just have this mic that you plugged into the lightning port of your phone, and he would just walk and do a podcast.
That's so much fun.
And he's like, these are some of the best conversations, but the trade-off is the audio quality. Because then sometimes the mic is really far away, sometimes it's close, and so you got to pay attention as a listener, so it doesn't make it an easy listening experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Has there been, you asked me this question when we were at Starbucks, but have you felt a time where you just like crushed it?
Sorry, that's such a good question. No.
Yeah.
Just because I am so hard on myself, I
Yeah.
can just find the littlest thing. But there have been, like after my open in Nebraska, and it was my first time on ABC,
Okay.
and I knew there was gonna be like over 1 million people watching. I was so hyper focused on the open, and I was in the rafters, and like I had this idea for them to zoom out because my open was on like the 12,000 people that were there, and
Yeah.
and I ended up executing it really well, and it went really well. And I remember afterwards I was like shaking, and I just
Yeah.
like fist pumped in the air when I wasn't on camera anymore. And that one, I felt really satisfied after
Yeah.
that. But later I would go back and be like, oh, I wish I sounded more natural at the beginning, or I
Yeah.
didn't say, yeah, Courtney, I should have said something else. So I've never been 100% satisfied, but there's that rush. We talked about this
Yeah.
with like broadcasting that we chased after we're done playing, or we want that same feeling as like
Yeah.
when you're playing, and broadcasting has that
For sure.
a little bit.
How do you think sports prepared or did not prepare you for broadcasting?
If I wasn't an athlete, I would never be where I am today. I think it 100% prepared me for this. As far as hard work is concerned, pouring every single ounce of yourself into a goal, like the national championship, when I was an athlete, that was my one goal, and every single day, that's all I thought about. Every workout, it was for that. What I ate, it was for that. So pouring everything into a goal, that definitely helped. Being hyper-focused on something. And then relentlessness. I mean, even just playing beach volleyball, it's like, I'm not going to let that ball hit the ground. I'm going to give it everything I have to scoop it up. Same with broadcasting and like pursuing storylines, pursuing coaches when they're running to the locker room. You have to run after them. Right. You're not going to let them go. Just demanding the most from yourself, I think also helps. So yeah, just in so many ways.
Yeah, and like high pressure moments too.
Yes.
Because I think being down 19-20, needing to earn a point, like having experienced that a lot, and then you go into a live TV environment, you kind of understand how to regulate your emotions and to bring yourself back down and deliver something calm across. Because you don't want someone like your partner be like, oh, it's 19-20 and I don't know, like what should we run?
Oh yeah, no, you're never going to be successful with that kind of energy. And then pressure is a privilege. I love that quote. Yeah. You really learn that from playing in like the level that you played at and at a national championship final. Like you just really learn how much of an honor it is to be in this situation. So you might as well let all the practice pay off now.
Right. And what a privilege it is to really feel.
Yes.
When you think about, I love this quote from Thoreau where he says, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Ooh. And it's just, I mean, how many 9-to-5ers go to work? My brothers, both of them, 9 to 5. And my little brother has 2 daughters now. And so he feels that as a dad. But as far as work goes, he's like, yeah, I mean, I just go to work. I don't really feel that high or feel that low.
Yeah.
And it's like, as an athlete, the rush you get at 16-14 that you win that final round of the qualifier, and then the price of admission is when you lose those matches. And now you have that sort of dejection. But it's so cool to really be able to feel the full spectrum of human emotion.
Yes.
And I don't think that I would be able to take a job after having been an athlete where you couldn't be so emotionally invested that you'll get that rush or that you'll get that super low.
That's such a good point. I mean, it really is such a privilege to feel all of those things.
Yeah.
And you're right, the lows are so low because you give it all you have, and then the highs are so high. I haven't felt that since my last win. But yeah, and some people are fine with the 9 to 5. They don't need to feel those extremes. But after being an athlete, it's like, I'm going to chase the most pressure situation I can because I want to feel that rush again.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too, that some people, they don't want or need that. Like my older brother, he's like, I see what you do.
Yeah.
It looks fun. Not for me.
Yeah. It's just a preference.
Yeah.
100%.
But as athletes, former athletes now, I just think like I wouldn't be able to leave it. And that's like when we were talking about a player who got hurt, and I was like, man, I haven't felt this bad in a long time. But it's sort of counterintuitively, that's how I knew that like I should be here coaching.
Yes.
Because like to be able to feel that deeply, and that's what I told Dee. I was like, man, I didn't realize like how much I love these kids until one gets hurt, and it was like my own kid got hurt, and I was like, that means I'm in the right place.
100%. What's been the most gratifying part of coaching so far?
I think it's like it's always fun from a beach volleyball standpoint to see something really click when you're trying to get them to do something and it happens, and you're like, that's it. That's really fun, but I think I didn't expect to get so much joy out of the relationship building side of it.
Yeah.
Where Delaney will cook the team lunch once a week, and for them to like know my wife and to light up when they see my son toddling onto the court, and then have him over for dinner like she did at Thanksgiving for the team. We'll have a couple of the girls over once every couple of weeks, and they'll come just get dinner, and just to get to know them on a personal level. And to really get excited for them when they have success that has nothing to do with beach volleyball. I think that's been unexpectedly awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful connection that I don't think a lot of people talk about between the coaches and the players. And you spend so much time with them. They become your family.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really beautiful thing.
And I think when you think about college kids, we'll spend more time with them than their parents will
Exactly.
over the next 4 years. And not that we are their parents, but there is kind of that surrogate parent role where you're trying to teach them to be good people and to like give them kind of a home environment type thing.
Yeah.
And that's been a part that's been exciting.
Did you ever see yourself coaching at a top 5 D1 program at this stage in your life?
No, and how it worked out is mind blowing. Like I grew up, I knew I wanted to get into coaching, or maybe that was a potential path because my dad coached me and everything, and I kind of have a coach's mind for things. But no, for my first job to be at a top 5 university with Brooke Niles, who has won more matches than anyone in the history of NCAA Beach Volleyball, and Nick Lucena, 2-time Olympian, who from 2010 to 2020, I think was the best defender in the world.
Yep.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Talk about getting better at coaching at an accelerated rate. Like underneath them.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just going to keep growing and growing and growing, and then this skill, which is coaching.
And Brooke's so funny because she's like, Nick, like we got to keep Travis here. We got to keep him happy. I'm like, Brooke, I'll sign a 5-year deal. Come on. You keep me here, please.
Oh, I bet they love that. That kind of like comfort that you're here and you're in it with them.
Yeah, and it's been fun because I think like Brooke is one of the few people, maybe the only person I've met who has an engine that goes even harder and faster than mine.
I mean,
like I have a pretty high capacity for work, and Brooke blows it out of the water.
Yeah, I was telling you the other day, even she was like pregnant and pushing a stroller and running our conditioning test faster than us. And we're like, okay, we hate ourselves.
Yeah.
Like this girl just has a different level of work ethic than I've ever seen.
It's been fun to be around because, and I was telling Delaney, I was like, this is awesome. Like I've met some, like I feel like me and Brooke are like brother sister.
Yeah.
Like we're just cut from the same cloth. And it's fun to work with people like that, where they're obsessive. It's fun to be around fellow obsessives.
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah.
And you seem to have that kind of obsessive gene about like you can go like narrow and deep into a field.
I can be an absolute nut job.
Yeah.
100%. Because you're probably the same way. Like you demand so much from yourself, and your aspirations are so high. I always have this thing where I don't want to be the one standing in my own way, so I'm just going to do every single thing I can to make this happen, and that requires me to be obsessive.
Yeah, and I think that brings a measure of peace when things don't go your way.
Yes.
Because it's like we did everything we could.
Exactly.
And it just didn't work. And you have to understand that sometimes your best isn't good enough. Because Delaney, she had a tough time with that. Her last year as a player, she got a coach, did everything the right way, got a trainer for lifting, and she had a couple tournaments where she had early losses to teams that weren't doing what she was doing, and she was like, "It's just not, my best isn't good enough." I'm like, "Yeah, but at least you don't have to wonder what if."
Yeah,
You
that's
did
a
it.
really good
You
point.
did the thing.
You went for it.
Yeah.
Who was her partner?
She was playing. She did a little bit with Tracy Callahan.
Okay,
and then she popped around her last year with Zana. And Lexi Denenberg she played with in New Orleans.
Okay.
And she just had a couple losses. She's like, that sucked.
Was that hard? Was that transition out of being a pro difficult for her?
I think it would have been if it wasn't a transition into motherhood.
Okay.
But her transition into motherhood was it. And it's been fascinating to see different women's responses to having a kid.
Yeah.
Because you have some like a Carrie Walsh Jennings who they have a kid and they're like, now I have something more to win for. And their competitive drive multiplies tenfold. And then you have someone like Delaney, and Kim DiCello was similar, where you have a kid and it's like, what am I doing? Going to leave to play a tournament in Mexico?
Yeah.
My kid's home. And their competitive drive just washes out.
Yeah.
And I was just chatting with, do you know Nina Brunner?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, she won the Olympic bronze medal. She is pregnant, and I was talking to her about it, and she was like, I wonder what it's going to be like if I can come back. I'm like, physically, I don't think it would be a problem, but it's just so interesting to see how women respond mentally to it, whether they want to leave home, especially for someone in Switzerland. They don't have an AVP where you got to go. And you got to travel.
It's so much travel to really pour everything into it. It is a full-time job, and so is motherhood.
Yeah.
Do you know Aurora Davis?
Yeah, I love Aurora.
Yeah, she's got like 5 kids. And she's still going after it.
Super mom.
How does she do it? It blows my mind, actually. Like, I just don't even understand.
She's incredible. She popped in for alumni weekend.
Okay.
won the alumni weekend tournament while breastfeeding in between matches her twin kids.
She's amazing.
No, I was like, Aurora, I thought I'd seen it all.
Yeah.
And then you just go and outdo everyone again.
And her husband is so great too.
Josh is an all-American man.
Yeah, that's a good way to
It's
put
an
it.
all-American family.
Yeah, and her mom comes and like helps and watches the kids and stuff.
It was crazy. I did like a full-time year on the World Tour in 21. And Aurora did all the same tournaments. It was like 12. Brought her kids, brought grandma, and we're talking like Russia, where you need visas. And
Oh my God.
She's got all the little kids running around. I'm like, this is crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you? Okay, so I've heard like from all my friends that go pro and stuff, the traveling when you're a professional is extensive and exhausting.
Yeah.
And how difficult was it for you?
It varied in different phases of my life. At first, before me and Dee had a kid, it was awesome for a while. I was like, oh, I'd never been to Bulgaria. I'd never been to Belgium. I'd never been to the Netherlands. And so it's like this crazy novel experience. And then when you start going to the same places again, and then the jet lag kicks in, and then the burnout from volleyball kicks in, and that is a mother of a storm.
I believe
When
it.
you get the volleyball burnout, then you start losing, and you're traveling, and you're jet lagged, and you're not sleeping, and your body feels like shit, and you're eating bad food, and you're like, what are we doing?
You're not primed for peak performance after all of that.
Yeah, and the only solace in that is that no one is.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's in the same boat. That's why it blows my mind what Anders and Christian have been able to do. They've been able to sustain being the best team in the world for 6 years.
Yeah.
And, like, I know what it's like to go from Brazil to China, 50 hours, and you're not really eating. Like, you're stuck on a plane. You get off, and your legs are the size of softballs, and it's like, it's bad. And then they still sustain this level of success.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Built different.
Yeah.
Also, the size of a softball, probably bigger.
Your ankles.
Oh, the ankles.
The
Yeah.
ankles. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
been there.
it was tough. But commentating, it was kind of the same thing last year. I think when I got back from Doha in December, it was the most exhausted and burned out I'd ever been. Because we moved to Florida State in October, and then I was like here for a weekend, and then I went to Brazil, and then back for like 5 days, back to Brazil, back for a couple days to Germany for a couple days, Doha, back, Thanksgiving in California, back. It was a mess. But when I got back from Doha, I just slept like all day.
Yeah.
As much as I could.
Your body needs it emotionally, mentally after all of that.
Yeah.
I
So
completely
the first
understand.
like 3.5 months we were here, I was here for one weekend.
Wow.
And it sucked because then you're leaving your family, and so you know what you're missing. And the job is amazing. It's once you're there, it's such a blast. But then like in Doha, I was jet lagged and was up at like 1:30 in the morning, and I just didn't go back to sleep. So from like 1:30 to like 8 a.m., you're just by yourself, and I'm just like, man, I want to go home.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Did you ever do any international playing?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I kind of always knew that it was just going to be college for me, so I did the USA. I went through that whole system. Was in California every summer, and did that and took college as far as I could. But then kind of knew I was going to be done after that.
Did you ever have professional aspirations, or were you just saying like it's going to be great during college, and then I want to get into broadcasting?
100%. I think like 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, my thing was I'm going to win the Olympics. I'm going to go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I was so dead set. That was my goal. And then I poured everything into it, and I loved it so much. But deep down, I have always had that broadcasting desire. And I knew in order to take broadcasting to its fullest extent, to as far as I want to go, I can't do both.
Yeah.
I have to be very like zonal focused
Yeah.
on it. So it was definitely difficult to give it up, and I'm sad. I miss it so much. Especially now commentating volleyball, it's like I just want to get out there and dig that or pass that jump serve so bad because I think I can do it better than the players still, which is not true in the least bit. But yeah, I definitely miss it.
Do you still have that itch as
So
a player?
bad. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got to like in Nebraska before their regional. Me and Katie George used to play at Louisville, and now she's a commentator. And Holly McPeak, we got to do a little like 3-man pepper, and just that just felt so good, like playing on the court in the big arena. But it's obviously nothing like it used to be.
Yeah. Because I think that's what's helped me transition to coaching is that my last year as a player, so we were talking about the highs and lows and how it's great to feel. My last year as a player just felt nothing. I'd lose in a qualifier and I'd be like, all right, sweet, get to go home.
Yeah.
And then we'd win a qualifier and been like, all right, guess we get to do it again tomorrow.
That's when you knew it was
and
probably
that was a
time to
sign
be
for me.
done.
I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Because I would feel bad for my partners because they'd be like crushed. And I'd be like, you can get over it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, then that was a good call by you.
Yeah.
My last year, my grad year, was the best year ever. And I
Okay.
was so happy to finish on that note. We went
Yeah.
to the national championship final. Elena and I, we won. We were seed 2. And we
Okay.
won that. And I had literally fractured my ankle like the game before. And so we thought there was no way
Damn.
in hell we were going to win
Right.
in the final. And it was against Megan Kraft and Sammy Slater, who
Okay.
were like basically undefeated,
Yeah.
except for we had beaten them in the tournament before
Yeah,
that.
you did.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, so we're probably, I don't want to lose my last game
Right.
like ever playing. And I just gave it all I had, and it was the best way to go out. I could have not have gone out a better way at the very top.
It's
so it was
good to
fun.
have that peace too.
It was peace, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I can seal this up and be very happy with that phase of my life, and now
Yeah.
it's time to do something else.
But you still got just a little something in there left.
Yeah, of
Because that's
course.
how Nick's the same way. He's like, man, I'd still play.
Yes.
And I don't have any of that yet, but I
Mm-hmm.
haven't been that far removed from it because I played Hermosa with Andy in September.
Okay, so it was
So
recent.
yeah, but that was I played a CBVA in Hermosa. That was the only tournaments I played.
Mm-hmm.
So I scratched it just enough. But then how sore I was after Hermosa, I was like, cool, done.
You're good to be
Happy
done.
for at least a year.
How long did you play professionally for?
My first main draw was 2018.
Okay,
And then I would consider Hermosa my last professional tournament. So 6 years.
okay.
Yeah. And then I tried to qualify for a year before that. So I wasn't professional, but trying to do the thing for 7 years.
It's wild, the story of when you started playing is just
Yeah.
insane. You're so naturally athletic. It's crazy to pick it up.
We grew up playing, we grew up in a town pretty similar where it's just a rural town.
Yep.
There's not a ton to do in Tallahassee. Like it's just, you go to Florida State stuff and you play sports.
Yeah.
And that's how we grew up. So we just played everything. And I think that's the perfect training for beach volleyball because you just have to be good at everything. And you have to be sort of coordinated to get like the weird touches where you're like kind of falling and throwing out a chicken wing and it just happens to get up. And I think that because I get so obsessive about things, I burn out really easily. So I have like a 10-year cycle where I get like super into golf. And as soon as I was getting pretty dang good, I was like, I don't want to look at a golf club. Same thing with soccer, with basketball, with swimming, and then with beach volleyball. And it's funny because I picked up a beach volleyball for the first time in 2014, and I was over it as a player in 2024.
That is crazy.
This 10-year thing.
Literally 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like every 7 years you have a full different head of hair on your head. Like your hair
Yeah.
grows out and falls out, and then every 7 years you have different hair. You with hobbies
I
every
just
10.
like shed the skin. It's like, what else? Oh, coaching. All right, we're going to get obsessed with coaching.
2025 or 2024 to now 2034.
Yeah.
But maybe this one will be longer than 10 years.
Maybe, hopefully.
Hopefully.
But I think it's because I love learning. I think that's what I'm sort of addicted to.
That's cool.
Is getting obsessed and learning a new skill. And coaching is just this like completely untapped area for me. And you just get to like experiment and figure out what works and what doesn't. And
Yeah.
so now I'm just like devouring books on coaching. It's
Oh,
just
that's
fun.
cool.
Learning a new field.
And it feels, is boundaryless a word? Boundless? No. You could keep discovering new aspects of coaching and yourself and these players like forever.
Yeah.
Like you could really never get bored with it.
And
I
it's
feel like.
new. I mean, it's a new cycle of players every 4 years.
Exactly.
Every 5 years, I guess, now that you can get a fifth year. But that's why I respect like professional coaches. Like you look at, I just finished a biography on Bill Belichick. And everyone always wonders, well, how good would he have been without Tom Brady? And how good would Popovich been without Tim Duncan? And how good would Bill Walsh have been without Jerry Rice and Steve Young in them? But I admire like the Bill Selfs, who he's won, like 12 to 15 Big 12 titles
Yeah.
with new players every 4 years.
Exactly.
And in basketball, it's a new starting five pretty much every year because they go to the NBA. So I think college coaches are actually more impressive to sustain that success than professional because you lose your guys.
Yeah, it's so true. It's new challenges every year. And then also each player needs to be coached differently and respond differently to how you speak to them and all of that. So like that's a fun challenge too. And
Yeah.
it helps that you're so good with people. You have to have that kind of interpersonal awareness and
And
connection.
that's because my sort of introduction to coaching was working with Bourne and Kameshock and Betsy Flint and Julia Scholes. And both teams were so similar in how different the players were. Because Betsy, she loves sort of a constraint-led competition-based approach. And Julia wants reps. And it was a very creative challenge for me as a coach. How can you appease both athletes in a 2-hour practice?
Yeah. How did you?
And you just basically have to work in both. And then what we ended up doing, which was great, because Julia, she was coming off double knee surgery, so she could only compete so much. We kind of had to keep her limited. And so it would just be me and Julia for like 2 hours on a Monday and Wednesday. And we would just get her reps. And then Betsy, sometimes I would jump in practice with her. Sometimes she would just get a partner to go in when Julia couldn't. And then it would just be all competition.
Yeah.
And then we kind of fixed it so that when they were together, it was like an hour of reps, hour of competition. And then with Betsy, we'd always make the reps part of competition too. But then Try and Kame were pretty similar, where Kame, he was not as competition-based as Betsy, but still a little bit more on that side, where Try just he could rep it out for 2 hours a day for 4 straight months and not compete one time, and he'd be cool with it.
Wow.
Which would kill me as a player.
100%.
Like, I want to compete.
Yeah, my little soul would die.
Yeah. So, but then now at Florida State, you have 23 different personalities who all of them get better by different ways. And that's been a fun challenge. How do you practice plan to get everyone better?
Exactly. And honestly, the hard part of this is like you're never going to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be girls. And also there's differing levels of commitment. Like I know some of the girls want it more than others. And that's another thing that you have to, it's like an obstacle course for you.
Yeah. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Like it's like a little Spartan race every day.
Yeah. Would your wife ever want to get into coaching?
She coached for 5 years at Pepperdine.
Okay, I remember this because she coached when I played here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So she loves coaching. And she just loves getting the girls better at volleyball. But coaching at a college is so much more than that. And that's what Brooke is unbelievable at. There's so much administrative stuff behind the scenes that I had no idea the layers to. I mean, Brooke is doing stuff all day long. She's in meetings all day with athletic directors and facilities and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And then, which is great because she's able to take such a brunt of that load, and I've been able to help her out a little bit with that, and then that frees up Nick to coach volleyball. And that's what he loves. So, like, if Delaney were to be a Nick, she would enjoy that. But I think the administrative side of things, she'd be like, it's just not for me.
You're right. And then the recruiting side, I don't know how she does everything that she does. Especially with NIL and how the college world is changing so much too. It's like the balls that you have to juggle, just being her.
It's nuts. She has 32 hours in the day, I swear.
Yeah.
Plus 3 kids.
3 boys too, who are little wild things.
And Austin, he calls them the rowdy boys.
He does. Oh my gosh, that's so like, even at 1.5, he can tell.
He calls them the rowdy boys because they, of course, they got a new puppy.
Yeah.
And the dog park is right across the street from our house.
Oh,
and
good.
so Brooke, she'll always let us know when they're bringing Cooper by. And they'll bring, the other day she brought Colin Ryder. And so like, Austin, the rowdy boys are at the dog park. And so he went out and Colin Ryder was just doing sprints like to the fence and back. And so they'd go running, and Austin would just be like toddling back after them. And then they come running this way, and Austin would turn around and toddle back.
That's so
he
cute.
loves them.
Oh.
Yeah, so Brooke is mom of 3, head coach, does like all the administrative stuff, and is still such a pleasant person.
Still so pleasant and in shape, like finds time to work out, take care of herself and her family, and all of these kids. I mean, it's
most impressive
she's a superhero.
person I know.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's crazy. How was it playing for her?
It was
because she's
awesome.
intense.
She is intense. And it was cool because, like, you know, you get to college and you're 18. And so her and I's relationship was pretty surfacey. And then as I got older and I became more myself, like, our relationship got deeper. And I would say, like, at the end of it, we were friends. And, like, she could look at me and I knew exactly what she wanted. And I knew how bad she wanted to win was exactly how bad I wanted to win.
Yeah.
So it was a really, like, beautiful, deep connection by the end of it. And same with Nick.
Because I think, like, when you have to be comfortable getting challenged by your coach.
Yes.
And sometimes, like, if you both know that what you're doing is with the best intention, then I think you're able to comfortably challenge someone. But I think, like you said, some of them want it more than others on a college team. Sometimes you'll challenge them, they'll be like, you're attacking me. Like, no, I promise. This is
Exactly.
we're trying to win.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
true.
That's good that you had that sort of healthy respect for each other that way.
Yeah, and like and as a player, like you just know that Nick is a little bit more crass and he's going to tell you exactly how it is. And it's just because he wants to win. He's not actually, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Like he would tell me, like, Madison, you cannot end up at the net. You are horrible at blocking. Elena needs to get up there. And I'm not going to take offense to that because it's true. Elena is a better blocker. I want to win. I'll stay back.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I think girls are too sensitive these days. We don't need to put that on there, but people
Well,
are
it depends.
sensitive.
I mean, some of them, like we have this class of freshmen who are intense. And you
Awesome.
can,
That's great.
and you can just tell them, hey, like, this wasn't good enough. This is where it needs to get better. And that's exactly how they want the message delivered. And they take it and they're like, heck yeah, like, you just got me better.
Yeah.
And some of them, and I feel like it's just kind of a generational thing. Like
That's
like
true.
when you have, like, my dad would yell at me all the time when I was growing up coaching, and I would be sensitive to it. And then now I look back on it, I'm like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
But I didn't get it in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I think, so I have a feeling that a lot of the girls in college now, no matter what program they're at, they look back on it and be like, oh, Stein or Mayer or Brooke or Nick or whoever, like, they were actually just trying to make me better.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
I probably will look back at it like
Sometimes
that.
you're just not ready to hear the message.
Exactly. And you're a little insecure because you're younger and you're trying to figure it out and all
Yeah.
of that. I wonder if John Mayer actually, do you think he yells ever or
No.
gets mad?
I don't think, but he doesn't beat around the bush.
Yeah.
Like, I think he just tells you something that's direct. And because I think that getting a compliment from a man like John Mayer is one of the greatest things ever.
I agree.
It's like when a cat sidles up next to you, and it's like, oh, cool. Like
Yeah.
that. But like a dog, it's like, oh, you love everyone.
Yeah.
You know, like a compliment from John goes a long way because he doesn't say things that don't have utility.
He
It's not
complimented me one time, and it was the best day of
just,
my
and you just
entire life.
keep it right in here.
I wrote it down. I have it in a journal. And I remember, like, word for word. I will never forget, because you're right. When they're sparing with it, it means more.
Yeah, like our dad was really tough on us,
Mm-hmm.
and so when he told us that we had a good game, like, I mean, we would write it down. Like, we
Yeah.
treasured that. But my mom was our cheerleader. She'd be like, "You played great, honey." And be like, "Sure, whatever."
That's
It
true.
loses its meaning.
Yes, it's like my grandma all the time is like, "You're so beautiful," even when I don't look good, and I'm like, "You're just saying that. I don't look that good right now."
Yeah.
So I get that 100%.
Yeah, I can't believe you've never done a podcast before.
No, never.
You
But I
are
love
so
to
good at this.
Thank you.
You should have your own.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that means so much to me coming from you, because you're an absolute pro.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because I just chat with people, but like, you're so poised and polished, and you have great questions, and you're a great listener,
Thank you.
and I think you're curious. Are you just a naturally curious
I'm
person?
so curious.
Yeah.
Like, I actually want to know everything about you.
Yeah, and I
That's
think,
who I am.
but I think that that's what would make you really good at it.
Thank
Because
you.
I think if you're naturally curious about people, and I think beach volleyball is the easiest sport, because when you ask a guy how he got into beach volleyball, no one path is the same.
That's so true.
With women in NCAA, it's getting a little bit more uniform, but the stories are so far and wide.
Yeah.
I'm like, how'd you get here?
And then you'll
we
have
talk
like the
about
one
that?
player that's from New Jersey that
Yeah.
like only played indoor, but she had potential, and so a
Right.
coach recruited her, and now she's really good at the sand. Like, you're right, it's all so different.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes a great interviewer, is someone who's just curious,
Yeah.
and you have that.
Thank you. Thank
been
you.
very fun
Well,
chatting
so
with
do you. So we're good at broadcasting. Or wait, is the time up?
No, well, I don't know. We're about 50 minutes in, which
Wow,
which
that's-
went by like 10.
Yeah.
So I don't know when it'll die, but we'll just keep chatting.
Okay.
And if it dies, it dies.
Okay, cool.
And because I did like an hour 45 with the men's beach volleyball coach at Stevenson, which is 12 miles from my house in Maryland, and they won a national championship.
In beach volleyball?
Yeah.
Men have national championships in beach volleyball?
Yes. And which is why it went an hour 45. Because I was like, Ian, I need you to tell me everything, because I grew up 12 miles from the school.
Yeah.
And volleyball for women wasn't a thing, much less men. It was a total girls sport. No one played. No one in my town played. And yet they just won the national championship in beach volleyball.
Okay. I have a million questions about that too. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't know that they had men's beach volleyball in college.
Yeah, so they have
Also in
it
Maryland.
in NAIA
Okay.
and D3.
Okay.
I don't know D2. It's not a D1 thing for Title IX considerations.
yeah.
And I don't know if Title IX, like where it stops applying.
Yeah.
I don't know if it stops at D2, but D3 they're kind of off the hook for it.
That's nice.
And so you can do NAIA and D3, and so it was Stevenson and Weber, which is an NAIA school. They were in the finals. And it was hilarious because me and Nick were commentating it.
Oh, really?
And
That's
we
fun.
had zero preparation for it. So they just showed up on the court because we were commentating the Huntsville Parish Championships. Was that a thing when you were playing? Was that new?
No, it became a thing right after I was done.
I think this was the third year.
Okay.
I think.
That makes sense.
And so we were commentating, and they're like, "Hey, you're going to do the men's championships." We're like, "All right, who's playing?" And we had like 10 minutes to kind of get ready for it. So
That's my
Stevenson versus Weber.
nightmare. Oh my
And
God.
well, that's like, if you get into commentating beach volleyball, that's going to be kind of par for the course.
Okay.
Because they'll switch the courts around so much, where the certain teams and matches will be assigned for court 2, and then at the last minute, they'll like someone will get hurt, or they just switch it to court 1. And the match you prepared for is no longer happening. So you have like 5 minutes to learn these new names, how to pronounce them, and a couple things that you can use on the broadcast.
So you just have to rely on your knowledge of the sport and your
You talk about
comfortability with
you
the
talk
sport.
about preparation.
Yeah.
You just learn to be prepared for that kind of thing.
Wow.
And that's why doing like qualifier matches is tough, because you can't prepare for, you don't know who's going to win.
Yeah.
And so you just have to be prepared for all 4 teams that could end up in that situation.
Oh my gosh.
And they're qualifier teams. You don't know anything about them.
Exactly.
And so you just have to go deep down the BVB rabbit hole.
And it's like you don't want to waste your time like working on teams that probably aren't going to make it, but you have to.
Right.
You got no choice.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and Nick, we were just like, all right, Stevenson versus Weber.
I wish that you could do the NCAA Beach Volleyball Women's Championships.
I hope I'm coaching.
Yeah. You will be coaching. You will be there.
Yeah.
We'll all be there.
Yeah.
And it's in Huntington this year, which is going to be really fun.
I think it'll be great. I was sad for Gulf Shores because it was such a thing.
So niche.
And it was kind of like how, God, where do they do it? Omaha is the College Baseball World Series.
Exactly.
And like you hear baseball in Omaha and you know.
Exactly.
And Gulf Shores and beach volleyball and you know. But I do think it'll be easier for crowds to get there.
Yes.
And Huntington is such a beach volleyball place, and I love Huntington. That said, I will miss Gulf Shores, but I'm intensely curious to see what it looks like.
Yeah, and how it's going to be different.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously the sand's different. But yeah, Gulf Shores was nice because it was like kind of compact sand a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're just bouncing the whole time, which
And
is a blast.
it's that sugar white sand,
Yeah, it's
and then
gorgeous
you
on
get that
TV.
beautiful teal water. It's a great made-for-TV product, but it gets so windy.
Oh, I
where
know.
It's bad volleyball a lot of times.
Yes, I remember we were playing LMU and like the quarters or something, and it was really, really bad volleyball.
Yeah.
But like, it worked because we play like little game, just keep it really low,
Yeah.
and the set's barely above the net.
Yeah.
And so that's the only way to play it.
Yeah, and I
But
think
you're
it's such a tough message to communicate, because that will get more viewers than any other event of the year.
Yes.
And if you're watching them play, you can't see wind on TV, so you have to rely on the commentators to explain why it's so difficult. And if they don't do that, it's like, this is the best.
Yeah,
This is what they got.
that's a good point.
Yeah, and it's like, sorry, like there's 25-mile-an-hour winds. You can't pass. If you serve it over the net, that's an accomplishment right now.
Literally.
And it's kind of a mess. So that's why I think going to Huntington might actually be a better product. One, I think the crowd will be bigger. It's a beach town, and it's easier conditions to play in.
Exactly.
But we'll see.
Oh, I'm so excited.
What do you think? Because you've covered Gulf Shores how many years?
2. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. My last year playing was 22, and then I covered it in 23 and 24. And it was like my first big opportunity with ESPN that I only got because I emailed the CEO of ESPN like probably 100 times. Like I just annoyed the crap out of her for an opportunity.
How'd you find her email?
I knew someone who gave it to me.
I was gonna say, you can't just find that on LinkedIn.
No. I knew someone who gave it to me from playing in the championships. All the announcers I already kind of knew. And so I just emailed her like literally 100 times, and like 3 sideline reporters, like Holly Rowe was like first up. She couldn't do it.
Okay.
Christine Williamson, who does like baseball or basketball, she couldn't do it. And the woman's like, fine, this girl's cheap. Like, let's just give her a chance.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my chance in 23. And then 24 was great. And now 25, I'll do it too.
And I feel like, and I'm not just doing this to blow smoke, I feel like you would have been better than Holly and Christine.
Thank you.
Because you get it.
Yeah.
They didn't play in that event. You did. Like, they don't know these players you do.
Exactly.
And
Thank
you can tell that story a lot better and more effectively, even though you don't. I mean, Holly Rowe in sports media circles is a household name.
Yeah.
Like, even though they don't know Madison Fitzpatrick, I think you would have done a better job.
Thank you so much.
How'd you feel you did that first year?
I felt on top of the world, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I absolutely crushed it, which is so funny because looking back on it, I'm so much better than I was back then.
Yeah.
But I was just on such a high. And it was a lot, like you said, about my experiences and the players I had played against already. So I got to like really tell in-depth stories.
Yeah.
So I felt like I contributed so much.
Yeah.
And this past year, I was working on a lot of things, trying to get better. The bosses were a lot more strict, so they were pretty like coming down on me after every hit, telling me things I need to do better.
Yeah.
So last year I felt like more growth.
Okay.
And then hopefully this year is
How
better.
does it work? Like, do they just give you a camera guy and like go do the thing? Or do you have
Yeah.
like a pretty strict rundown that you got to hit?
It's kind of like go do the thing.
Okay.
It's like we need you to be an asset. We need you to be the eyes and the ears
Yeah.
of the analysts and the play-by-play. So however you feel like you can impact the broadcast and add something, do it. So I'll just go, I'll sit on a court that the analysts, I can hear them in my ears.
Okay.
If they're not talking about that court, like the camera's on a different court,
Yeah.
I'll go sit on this court. I'll be watching what Devin Newberry and Jaden Whitmarsh are doing.
Yeah.
And then when that camera comes, I'll say to my producer, I've been watching, I can add on how they've been doing.
Cool.
So it's just you got to be brave, you got to assert yourself.
Yeah. Would
like
you
that.
rather that and the freedom to choose and kind of run your own thing, or would you rather be told what to do?
That's a great question.
It's two very different personalities.
Yeah, I like the freedom
Yeah.
because then I can be my most creative self and I don't have to rely on someone to stifle me or let me go.
Yeah.
What about
And I think because you know the game, I think you're better to do that role than I have a feeling that the execs that you're listening to don't know beach volleyball
Exactly.
nearly as well as you do. So I think that you would have a keener eye for what to pay attention to than anybody else. Because
That's very true.
it's hard for, like when people gave the commentators at NBC a lot of crap this year for the Olympics, but it is hard for them because like they're not, like Marlo's not paying attention to beach volleyball for the last 4 years. And like you're just being flown in to do this one event, and you have to sort of rush. Like Dane Blanton, I mean, he's coaching at USC. Like he doesn't have time to be paying attention, so that you just get dropped in there. And then same with ESPN, like they're not doing every single event throughout the year, and so like they're just being dropped in. And so I think that's why you're a very valuable asset for them to have, because especially if we get you here on SANDCAST.
Yeah.
Do a little NCAA show, because you're going to be polished and ready to go.
Exactly. I'm really excited about that also.
I'm stoked to have you.
Would it be a goal of yours to commentate the Olympics one day?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I was like a backup this year.
What?
Yeah, so this guy...
That's awesome!
Yeah, so this guy named Tom Fior, he has
I know
produced...
Tom.
Yeah, so
Love
he's produced
guy.
like every Olympics since like 88.
Yeah.
A lot on the track side, a lot on the volleyball side. And he's enjoyed my commentary for VBTV. And so he sort of set up kind of an interview. He's like, hey, put your reel together. Make sure you have this, that, and that in there. Send it. Chatted with the execs, and they were like, listen, we have this team that's been in place for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, Marlo's done it since 96. Like, you're not just going to replace him. So like if someone says no, we'll call you. And everyone said yes.
That is such an honor, though, even to be in that position.
Yeah.
And they're going to age out at some point.
And so I'm hoping when LA rolls around in 28, that would be the goal, is to commentate LA.
That gives me goosebumps. That is so exciting. And especially being so new, I mean, relatively,
Super new.
to broadcasting. I mean, what a cool opportunity.
Yeah. And it was awesome. And that's where like the whole supply demand in beach volleyball.
Seriously. I need to get into beach because you're right. It's or more so on that side, but yeah, Tom, doesn't he produce Love? Podcast or something?
Yeah, he's doing Love. Yeah, and then we're actually setting up. I was talking to him earlier today. We're going to set up a podcast. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I kind of want to do a State of the Beach Volleyball Union type deal and talk these 4 points. I'm like, let's do it. Whenever.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why. So I'm hoping the camera's still rolling. About an hour in.
How can you tell?
Well, it's a good sign that the mic thing's still in green, but I don't know if the memory's up or not.
Okay.
Yeah, we're testing out new mics, guys. The
Yeah,
audio's
it's
great. Cool. I just got to get a phone with more memory.
That's tough.
But the show that we're bringing on with Madison Fitzpatrick doesn't have a name yet, we'll have a working title coming, but we're gonna have you cover NCAA Beach, like how I did with the Olympics and the Road to Paris.
I'm pumped.
I'm fired up.
Yeah.
Because
I
it's just
love
open canvas for
NCAA
you.
beach volleyball, and I love the players, and I love the sport, and I love the tournaments. I'm pumped. I
And it's
can't
clear
wait.
to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just like whatever you want to make of it. It's
Okay.
yours to do.
I love that.
So we can put out a vote. What do you guys think the name of the show should be? Do you have any ideas?
No, I was gonna chat GPT it, but then I'm like, no, use your brain, Mads. So I'm gonna try to use my
Chat
brain.
GPT it and just start
some
the foundation.
ideas.
Yeah, because I don't have any ideas.
No,
the Road to Paris was so easy.
Exactly.
Like, it was a no-brainer. Me and Delaney always say, "I love an easy call." It was just such an easy call.
Yes.
Yeah, but the NCAA Beach one, I don't know.
It could be something about hunting, but
Yeah, because I look at it like how I got into beach volleyball media. I was covering at a full-time job covering the Pac-12 football, basketball, and then
Print.
we just kind of like online
okay. Yeah.
writing, yeah. And then we